Greetings to the Andrew Goodman Foundation at your 10th National Civic Leadership Training Summit. I'm Joy Reid, host of the Joy Reid Show, and I love your theme, Democracy, the Unfinished Promise. And I want to briefly talk with you about the importance of storytelling and the power of media. When Andrew Goodman set out from New York City to register voters in the Deep South in the summer of 1964, the story he was telling the world was about social justice and his commitment to equality and to the simple truth that every man and woman in Mississippi should be able to register and vote just like they could on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Andrew was just 20 years old when he and Michael Schwerner, who was only 24, disappeared alongside a local young black man, James Chaney, who was just 21. It turned Freedom Summer into a summer of nightmares. And during the search for the three young men, the bodies of dozens of other black men were found along the search routes in Neshoba County, men whose names were unknown and whose stories were never told. But Andrew Goodman, even at 20 years old, as did Michael Schwerner and James Chaney, they understood the power of the story of white Northerners coming south, Jewish men working alongside black Southern Christians to move the country forward. That is storytelling, tragic and heroic and real. It isn't lost on me that you, young activists, all around Andrew Goodman's age, are on the front lines of today's fight for justice and democracy, fighting in the midst of another American nadir for the same things that Andrew Goodman was fighting for, the right to dignity and the right to vote, meaning that there are polling places on your campuses so you don't have to travel far to get to the ballot, registering your fellow students to vote, and leading in civic engagement and advocacy for the people and groups who are the most targeted, not just on our campuses, but in our country. Women, members of the LGBTQ community, particularly our trans friends, and immigrants of color, who in America in 2026 have to fear walking to class or going to work or even going to the airport to visit family for fear of being taken by masked men and locked in private prisons or deported. That fear is now, unfortunately, also attached to lining up in person to vote. And that is why your engagement matters. And it also matters how and where you engage. Like it or not, the media matters. Even with the declines in viewership, traditional media still carries weight in the dialogue, particularly in Washington. Lawmakers still want to know what's being said on CNN and NBC and ABC, CBS, and Fox. But that's not the only media that matters. Increasingly, the way that we communicate information, break the news, and tell the stories of who we are as Americans happens on independent media, like the Joy Reid Show and Zateo and The Intercept and the Don Lemon Show and so many more. So as you engage in activism, it's still really important that you track down the contacts for journalists, for content creators, and for podcasters to get them to amplify your stories. And increasingly, that also means engaging on social media, on Meta apps or Blue Sky, and yes, still even X, Twitter, and TikTok, which is why the corporate class and the special interests also want to own those things, alongside doing things like mass surveillance and expanded military activity and resource control. They want to own social media and traditional media. And the conversations that you are having on college campuses, they want to own those too. If you have a social media platform, you should use it. Amplify your work and encourage others to collaborate and amplify it with you. Believe it or not, the mainstream media pours over the socials to find stories to tell. First-person storytelling from the ground via social media is how George Floyd's tragic death, filmed by a teenage bystander with her phone, birthed a new chapter in the Black Lives Matter movement, moving corporate America along with it, at least for a while. It's how Gaza broke through and the Me Too movement. And I'm confident that you, the next generation of student leaders, future national leaders, and first-person storytellers will keep breaking through and speaking up and showing out to keep our democracy cooking. So thanks for listening, and big ups to my girl, the amazing storyteller, documentary filmmaker, and actor Erica Alexander for her much-deserved inaugural Robert Masters Award. Have a great summit, fam. Keep telling your stories And next time, hopefully, I can tell you my stories in person.